Welcome back to your bestie in freight, the place where we talk about real stories, real work, and the real people who actually move this industry forward. Because supply chain isn't just containers, contracts, and capacity. It is identity, it is resilience, it is leadership under pressure. It is finding your voice in rooms that weren't built for you. And today's conversation goes deeper than freight. We are talking about self worth, about losing everything and rebuilding, about standing on stages while privately fighting panic attacks, about building platforms for other voices that they don't feel invisible. Today I am joined by someone who didn't just build a number one global supply chain podcast, she built a movement around being heard. Best-selling author, founder of Let's Talk Supply Chain, host of Blended, self-worth advocate, industry disruptor, Sarah Barnes-Humry. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. You and I met just probably about 18 months ago, right? We were on stage
Yes,
together at the forum.
yes,
And I've loved to see sort of like what you've been doing since then. And we finally get to be on a show together. So thanks for
yes.
having me.
And it turned out that we both moved to Florida, which I didn't know about. I thought you are just visiting.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. When you messaged me about that, I was like, wow, we're only an hour away. Maybe we should do this in person.
Yes, yes. Maybe next time we should do in person. That would be amazing. So you are not ready for what we are about to unpack. Sarah, I want to start here. I'm gonna be honest. I tried to read your book till the end, but I am still like 20 pages behind.
That's okay.
But I took a lot of notes. My goal was to finish so I can, ask all of the questions, but still I'm prepared. So I want to ask, in your book, you say something that stopped me. You said, whatever we hide, we fail to understand, much less value. So you shared your journey with lipidemia, the shame, the surgeries, the panic attacks on the plane, and the moment you finally wore the black dress and you felt like yourself again. So my question, how do we stop hiding the parts of ourselves we think make us less worthy, especially in leadership roles?
I mean, isn't that one of the most difficult things that any of us can do as human beings, right? Nobody wants to take a look at the things that we don't like, and we
Yes.
certainly don't want to bring light to it. But realistically, when we do give ourselves permission to take a look at some of the hardest things that we've been through and some of the things that we do hide, that's really where the magic happens, because if we can reflect on it and we can think about it, we can think about what we've learned about ourselves through all of that, then that's kind of where our superpower lies. It's kind of how we really get to understand ourselves as a human and really start to understand our potential. We get to understand who we are and how we want to show up in the world.
Yes, I agree. Because I also have done surgeries. I think any woman can relate that we have some parts of ours that we kind of shame or we don't like it and we want to change, but finding a balance, changing, but at the same time loving ourselves the way we are is very important.
It's also very freeing. I mean, if you think about hiding something, right? There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot that goes into hiding something. So
That's
once we are able to talk about it and shed light on it, like bring some light to it rather than the darkness of shame, it actually transcends a lot of what we can really understand about who we are and what we can do.
Yes. Sarah, you also talk about needing a safe space during panic attacks, about how asking for help actually strengthened your self-worth. So, how do we build that kind of safe support system as high-performing women when everyone expects us to be the strong one and the perfect one?
Hmm. I think you're really going to only find those people in that moment. There have been moments where I've had a panic attack, and I'll give you an example. I had a panic attack. I play softball, and I had a panic attack, and that was kind of my safe space. It was where I felt the most comfortable. I've been a catcher for 35 years, like I feel really comfortable on the ball diamond. And there was this one game, I think it was like 2 years ago, and I started having a panic attack. Like, I thought I was gonna faint, and it was just gonna be a whole thing, and I didn't know if I was gonna be able to get through the game. And I actually grabbed my brother-in-law, and I pulled him aside, and I said, "Listen, I'm going through something right now. You're not gonna understand it because we've never talked about this before, but I need you to sit there and just talk to me." Because I knew that that was what was going to help ground me through that, thing that I was going through at the time. And panic attacks look different for different people, right? Some people are very verbal and they have to get it out, and they have to ground themselves in 5 things that they can see, 4 things that they can smell, 3 things that they can hear. Mine don't really happen that way. I do mine very, very mine kind of happen internally. I get very emotional. And so just through that story and being able to communicate with him what I needed in that moment, he was able to give that to me even though I had never really vetted him as a safe space. So I think what happens is we can't get too caught up in trying to figure out who those people are, but understanding how we communicate in that moment, what we need, really, really helps.
So understanding ourselves first, what is gonna help ourselves first,
Yeah.
and God, universe will send the right people, right?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes it doesn't, right? There's going to be moments where you're asking somebody to be a safe space for you and they can't do it. And
Okay.
so you also need to know what your options are in that moment because everything's about choices, right? So in that moment that person can't be there for you as a safe space, and that's got nothing to do with you. What do you do in that moment to give yourself what you need? So in some of those moments for me that was going to into a bathroom.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned a lot going bathroom, crying, and getting back on track, and doing your panel speaking or public speaking, asking questions. You mentioned in your book, Sarah, that independence is a core of the confidence because it allows you to be okay being yourself. And that really hit me because so many of us confuse independence with illusion. How do we stay independent without becoming emotionally closed off?
Hmm. I think that's gonna look differently for different
Different
people,
people,
right? It
right?
it really depends on how we look at independence. Somebody can be independent, but they can also have a partner that they are very much attached to emotionally, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yes.
so I think it depends on our version of what independence means. I think it depends on what our version of resilience means. And that goes back to understanding who we are. If we don't really understand who we are and how we fit in and what that looks like for us, I think it's very difficult to navigate and figure that out.
Yeah. So now I'm curious, what is your version of independence? Because there is this trend being independent woman, we don't need anyone. What is your version of being independent?
I've had a very significant journey with independence, and I actually talk about it a lot in the book, right? Because when I was
Yes.
16, my family needed to I was living in Vancouver at the time. My parents needed to fly to Toronto, and I was left to pretty
With
much my own
grandma, right?
devices since I was 16, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had to cook for myself, grocery shop, take myself to softball games, all of that kind of stuff. And so I grew up very, very quickly. And so I learned independence very quickly, but I also didn't really understand independence until a number of years later.
So independence is different stages, right?
Oh, definitely. It's like self-worth. It's like finding your voice, right? All of that's going to come in ebb and flows throughout your journey. You're not necessarily going to be confident in your voice your whole lifetime. It's going
Yeah.
to come and go. There's going to be certain situations. There's going to be certain days that it's stronger than others. It's
Yes.
how you deal with that in the moment and how you bounce back afterwards and how you find that voice afterwards.
Yes. For me, it was just very interesting also. Of course, after becoming a student, I had to live in a different city like you. So I had to cook for myself, do grocery shopping. I was also 17 years old.
Wow.
And then after getting married, you kind of become not as independent. And then when I got divorced, now I was independent. I had to make decisions and I have to provide for myself and for my kids. After that, when I remarried, now I don't know how to be not independent. So it's kind of, difficult to always shift because I kind of liked being independent, that I
Yeah.
can make my own decisions, but at the same time, when you are in relationship, it's not always working, right?
Yeah.
So how was your experience, if you don't mind, of course, sharing? Because you shared already in your book that you were about to get married and it didn't happen and then you remarried, right? So how your independence changed as a woman?
Yeah. I mean, when I was 16, it looked like I had to take care of myself and I had to learn how to do that fairly quickly because it kind of happened. I think in my 20s, I lost a little bit of myself and the independence in the relationship that I had. Although, uh, I had a lot of experiences in that time that also built a little bit of my independence, if that makes sense. I think you can have both at the same time. It just looks very different. When that sort of fell through, I started traveling on my own. I was doing different things. I was traveling to different places. And that's what independence has looked like for me, pretty much from then until now. I've been married, I think it's 13 years, in July, and we are very independent people. And I continue to travel on my own, and that gives me some independence. And I learned through actual therapy that that was something that I needed in my life. Was that a couple of times a year, whether it was for work or for whatever that looked like, I
Yeah,
needed to have some time on my own to go and travel somewhere and do some stuff on my own. And
yeah,
that for me was what I needed to keep my sanity. It didn't mean I didn't love my husband, and we've had conversations about that. So, he doesn't feel left out or anything like that. And so that has kind of continued. But I think the success of that is that we've been able to talk about it and communicate it so that it doesn't make the other person feel badly
yeah, that's
because it's not
very
about
important.
them.
Yes. And I think every woman needs it. Women retreat, silence retreat once a year. We definitely need it to just go and be on our own with our own thoughts, especially if you have kids and family, right? You need this space to recharge and be back again, feeling yourself. But then you also mentioned, Sarah, about self sabotage, about how not feeling worthy can subconsciously lead us to destroy the very thing we want. That feels very real in entrepreneurship, right? How do we recognize when we are shrinking ourselves before we sabotage something important?
Yeah, and I think that's not just for entrepreneurs. I think it's just for people in general. We tend to do that. If we're scared of something or we think that something is bigger than us and that imposter syndrome comes out, we self-sabotage. We start either talking ourselves out of it or we start, talking when we're having a conversation with somebody else about what that potential could be, or maybe it's a job interview. Maybe we show up late. Maybe we don't show up in a professional setting. Those are different indications and ways that we self sabotage ourselves in different ways. And I think that we all do it, but we need to recognize what that looks like in us. But it starts with the fear. Like, what are we afraid of? Are we afraid of going out in public? Are we afraid of being bigger than we think that we should be? Are we shrinking ourselves to be what everybody thinks that we should be? right? And so I think it's deep rooted in fear, that self-sabotage. And I think once we're aware of it, then we can do something about it if we're not aware of it. And I think the other thing too is we when we talk to other people, when we're in public and we're in public settings and we're having conversations and we're networking, we actually, without saying the words, tell everybody else how we feel about ourselves without even realizing it. It's the words that we use, it's the tone of voice that we use, it's the way that we carry ourselves. And people can read that and they
Yes,
can understand like this how we feel about ourselves. We kind of wear our self worth.
I
They
agree.
say that you wear your heart on your sleeve. I think we wear a self worth on our sleeve, and we actually give it away in so many different ways than we realize it.
I agree. I noticed it mostly on women. I think men are more confident. I don't know why. But women, like when you meet or they trying to make video, they're like, oh, my hair is not good or like something is not good. They always question themselves. But men, they just, without makeup, their beard is not good. Their hair is messy and long, but they don't care. They feel confident. But women, we are so perfectionist, we just have this imagination. We want to be perfect, and then if we are not, which perfect also is, questionable, right? What is perfect? What is perfect for you might not be perfect for me, and the vice versa. So it's so difficult as a woman.
But
But
do they have the confidence
I
if
think
they
they
show
do.
up and they're not groomed and et cetera, et cetera? What does that, how does that portray to other people?
Yes, it doesn't portray it good, but I never heard any man saying, "Oh, my hair doesn't look good today," or "I am not groomed." I never heard. Have you
But
heard?
we communicate it differently. Right? For us, we've been groomed in the fact that everything needs to be perfect. Right? We have to have makeup on and we need to look a certain way and we need to be a certain weight and our hair needs to needs to look a certain way. And so I think it's communicated. I think it's a way for us and how we show up in the world. It's just done differently for different genders and different people because we're not
Yeah,
all the same.
different cultures. I agree. So you wrote affirmations, and I think that's very important for women, especially. So you said, "I believe I belong in rooms with greatness," and you said, "I believe I am what a woman who builds a 50 million business looks like," and that's powerful. Do you believe those statements when you first wrote them, or did
No.
you write them building the belief? How does it work? First you believe and you write it, or you write then you believe? Tell me the truth.
I I can't memorize anything. So for me to memorize, and that's a fairly long affirmation. So Lita is talking about the affirmation that I put in the book that I
Yes.
share with everybody of what I actually say to myself when I walk the dogs in the morning. It's one of the reasons why it's so long because I take time to walk the dog. Um, and I took bits and pieces of that affirmation from different people. I was hearing
Yes.
affirmations from different people. I wanted to make it my own. And so I kind of wrote it out. And it took me weeks to try to memorize it so I could say the whole thing. I think I built on it. Like I started like this and then I built on it and built on it as I would hear and resonate things that I wanted to put in my affirmations. And so that took me a while. Like it took like everyday practice to say those things. And then it took practice to believe them.
Mine is also very long. I have it on my phone. And when I am driving, to my daughter, I repeat it. So, but I am not memorizing yet. I'm on the process of memorizing.
Yeah,
But
that's
yes,
okay. Listen, we got lots of time. It's a journey,
yes.
right?
You said self-worth is not a destination, it is a path. Do you ever still walk into rooms and feel like you don't belong?
Absolutely.
I don't believe you. I think that you feel like you belong to everywhere.
No. No, no, no. There's lots of rooms. There's lots of times where I have to push myself out of my comfort zone. It's really how I have been successful in being able to build the business. If I hadn't pushed myself out of my comfort zone and been in rooms that I wasn't sure I belonged in, I wouldn't be where we are today. And that still happens today. I have to keep pushing myself out of my comfort zone to really see where success lies for me. Pushing myself out of a comfort zone and being in one room where I'm not sure I belong and it doesn't resonate or feel right, that's okay. And then there's going to be rooms that I do feel like I don't belong, but then I end up resonating with it and feel like I belong a little bit later. So I don't think that it's ever necessarily like a complete confidence when you walk in the room. I think it's very humbling that you can walk into a room, not make it about yourself necessarily. Understand that you might feel uncomfortable because you're not entirely sure what's coming or who you're going to meet. Or maybe there's some people in the room that make you feel uncomfortable, right? Life happens. It's how you're going to navigate that room and how you're going to come out the other side.
Sarah, but looking back, which rooms made you grow more? The rooms that you felt that you belong or the rooms that you felt you don't belong?
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, listen, I think it was I don't know if it was 2019 or 2018. I was on stage for one of the main sessions at TPM, and there was 2,500 people in the room. And I had, the CEO of one, I had, VP of supply chain at Home Depot on that stage. And I was very uncomfortable and I did not think that I, belonged on that stage. But I did it anyway.
Yes. Now I remembered my first time when I was in the stage that we had this panel. Remember, I was with a supply chain of Walmart and Uber and Coca-Cola, and I was like, okay, now I am among all of these women that accomplished so much in their life. But I think it was kind of easy for me to belong in the room because I think I feel comfortable in new rooms, but just talking, and understanding the room was just new experience for me because that was the first time I attended women conference in supply chain, and it was amazing experience.
And you did a great job. So
I got
did you
really good
grow from that
feedback.
experience?
No, actually, I got really good feedback about my shoes, about my story. Everyone was remembering me, so I got very hyped up.
Awesome. And so did you grow from that experience?
I did. I definitely
Yeah.
did. So, Sarah, now I have rapid fire question, no
Oh,
overthinking.
okay.
Whatever comes first to your mind, okay?
Okay.
So, self-worth in one word.
Self-worth.
A belief you had to break to level up.
Sorry, sorry, what did you say?
A belief you had to break to level up.
That I wasn't a public speaker.
One habit that protects your confidence.
My sage.
Or your affirmations.
Yeah, my
What
affirmations.
scares
Okay.
you right now?
What scares me right now? Everything. No, I'm just kidding. We have a launch coming up at the end of February, and I'm excited and nervous about it all at the same time.
Yes. And then finish the sentence. I am most powerful
When I am hosting a podcast, panel discussion, all of that, because that's my superpower.
Yes, I love it. I feel the same way. Sarah, thank you so much for showing us that strength and struggle can coexist, that self-worth isn't about perfection, it is about showing up again and again. And to everyone listening, remember you can build a business, you can build a brand, but most importantly, you can build yourself, and that's where everything changes. And to everyone listening in this episode, if this episode resonated, share it with someone. Buy Sarah's book, right? It is called I Buried Myself. Yes, Sarah, if you want to introduce your book, I loved it. I buried her in French press. Very interesting stories about Sarah's life and very reasonable. You can resonate with every story, I think, especially as a woman and men too. But yes,
Thank
please.
you. And the audiobook version just came out.
Yeah, wow, that's good.
I know. So I'm very
Uh-huh.
excited. But I just want to say congratulations to you on your success. I really appreciate you for sharing your space with me today and giving me an opportunity to talk about the book, but also talk about, some of the things that we don't get to talk about in supply chain. So I appreciate you.
I agree. That's why I decided not to ask any supply chain questions today because we had enough of those, right? So I wanted to dedicate this episode about self-worth and about the book, which I think more people need to resonate and read and come to that conclusion. So that's very important. And I wanted to also mention that today's episode is brought to you by Digital Permit Book. And if you run a fleet, you already know compliance can be messy, paper binders, outdated insurance documents. So Digital Permit Book changes that. Check out the link in the comments. I will share it later and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Sarah.
Bye, everybody.